guys, I'm so excited to be filming today's video because this has been on my list for literally years, and I'm happy I waited until now because the products have changed a bit, as well as the way that I am going to be doing this video. Originally, I was just going to let you know what dry skinned favorite products actually work on my oily skin, but I decided that I wanted to share my favorite and my least favorite dry skin products on an oily skin person. And I am so surprised by how many of these things that have become must-haves for me, even though they aren't meant for my skin type. And I am not a combo person. I don't have an oily T-zone. I'm just oily all over. I am a very, very, very oily person, where a lot of people talk about more mattifying products, say that they're must-haves for oily skin, and they don't work for me. They're not matte on me. So if you would like to see a version of this video with mattifying products that are meant for oily skin and how they work on an oil slick person, let me know. I'd be more than happy to do that because I've tested a ton of things. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about primer, foundation, powder, and setting spray. Before we get into it, I do have to do a disclaimer. These products are going to work differently on everyone. You may have dry skin and actually think these are terrible for you. You may have oily skin and they do or don't work for you. So take it with a grain of salt. This is just my experience with these products, and let's just go ahead and get started. So I did want to also mention that even the products that work for me, I cannot wear them all year round because, of course, in the summer and fall seasons, I am oilier than I am in the winter and the early spring. So a lot of these things I do tend to just wear in winter or early spring, that's funny, early spring. So I did want to mention that as well. So for primers, I separate them into two different categories. We have hydrating primers and glowy primers. So starting with the hydrating primers, there are two that I've been really impressed by. The first would be the Smashbox Photo Finish Primerizer, which is a primer and moisturizer in one. And then we have the Tarte Base Tape Hydrating Primer. I find both of these to be very, very similar. I really can't tell you much of a difference between the two of them, but I think that they don't feel just like a moisturizer on your skin. They do have like a feel to them that feels like a primer. It makes your skin feel a little bit more hydrated, a little glowy, more supple, and I do feel like these aren't slippery either, so it helps my foundation stick a little bit better. And when I use these, I will have to make sure that I am powdering my skin really well. A lot of times when I'm using these products, I don't use them all together. I will combine more of like hydrating primers with a little bit more of a matte powder or a matte foundation just to balance out my skin. But both of these I think work really well. I love the consistency of them and the way that they feel in my skin. I think they wear nicely. My makeup goes nicely over top of them and they don't make my makeup break down. I will get oily throughout the day, but not to like an extreme extent, or nothing that's significantly worse than a typical day. So both of those I think are really good, and a lot of people rave about the Primerizer, but I don't hear much about the Base Tape, and it's a really good product as well. Then for the hydrating primers that I really don't like, that I feel are pretty hyped up and I don't get why, the Too Faced Hangover RX Primer. First off, the coconut scent smells like slightly expired coconut. It's very weird. Then the First Aid Beauty Hyaluronic Hydrating Primer and the Coconut Skin Smoothie Primer. I just don't like coconut, so I don't like the scent of that one very much either. And then the Tarte Quench Hydrating Primer. They just didn't do anything for me. They're very basic. Like, I guess they give you a little bit more hydration, which is nice, but it just didn't do anything for me. I wasn't wowed by them. If I get any more minis, I would totally pass them on. And I honestly can't even tell you the big difference between the no's and these yeses, but I just was more impressed by these and felt like they seemed more like a makeup product, and these are just seem almost like skincare to me because they just didn't do anything. I did get oily with those, and I just didn't love them. And then for glowy primers, my top two favorites would be the Becca Backlight Priming Filter and the VDL Luma Layer Primer. So these are both very similar in the way that they're a very thin consistency. They spread nicely. They do not feel oily and greasy, which is very important to me. So the consistency of these is actually very similar. It's more of the color that's different to me, or what I noticed to be the main difference. So in the Becca, it's a bit more of a warmer champagne shade, and the VDL has more of a pink opalescent color to it. And this might be kind of silly because the foundation I go for is so full coverage. I don't know that you can see these shining through the foundation just because of the foundations that I go for, but I do think these are really nice. I enjoy using them. Whenever I get backups of these, I do hold on to them. I can't pass them on because they work so well for me. They give a beautiful glow without looking too greasy or shiny, and they don't make my makeup break up throughout the day. And then for the glowy primers that didn't really work for me, the first one is something that's just okay, the Becca First Light Priming Filter, which is the more purpley one, and that's somewhere between like glowy and hydrating. It more just gives like a dewy look to the skin instead of particularly glowy. If there's a difference, there is to me, but I don't know how best to describe it. But I'm actually trying to pan that primer right now. It's just okay. It doesn't do much for me. I do get a little bit more oily when I use it, and I am gonna use up the one I have, but if I get any more freebies, they're gonna be passed on. I just think this is so much better. It's a little bit less hydrating, and it just works better with my oily skin. So that one's not terrible, but it just doesn't do much for me. I don't get the hype. And then the other one that I think is like awful is something I used up recently. That is the Beauty Blender Opal Essence Primer. So it does have a really pretty glow, but this is such a greasy product. Applying it felt disgusting on the skin, and it's like, it feels like how your skin would be at the end of the day, and that's upon initial application. Like, I'm not excited to put foundation on top of this because I feel like it's just gonna slip off, and the process of applying it is so gross and oily and greasy. I had such a hard time using it up, and I went through it pretty quickly because with more hydrating glowy primers, I feel like I can apply a little bit more of them. And I did not go through it fast enough because it was such a yuck product. Like, it just made my skin feel yuck. So I would not recommend that one. Then for foundation, I actually don't have any that I can say I love. I've tried a lot of things that I don't like, and then these are products here that I wanted them to work for me so badly. It's where I applied them. I thought they looked beautiful on the skin, but they just did not wear well on me. They broke up. I got super, super greasy, and they're not the most long wearing on my skin type. If I was just putting foundation on for videos, which is what I've been doing the past year, it would be totally fine, but I'm not gonna buy a foundation to do that. I'm gonna buy foundations I know are gonna wear on me well all day long, and these don't because of my skin type, but I can tell the formula is so good, and I would totally recommend this to people that have dry skin types or normal skin types. So the first one is the Too Faced Born This Way foundation. The matte foundation, disgusting, terrible, hate it. But the original foundation, oh my gosh, I wanted this to work for me so badly because it has amazing full coverage. It looks so healthy on the skin. Because of the radiance, it looks more natural. So beautiful, but it did not wear well on me. I'm just too oily for it. The next thing is something that I believe has been discontinued. I panned this a couple years ago and really loved it. It was the Maybelline Dream Cushion foundation, and it's the only cushion foundation that I tried, I believe, and that's because cushion foundations tend to be lighter coverage. They're very dewy, which is not geared for me, but this foundation was awesome. Applying it with a Real Technique sponge, I actually was able to get a good bit of coverage. It gave a beautiful, like, lit from within glow. It looks so natural and pretty. The next one would be the Tarte Foundcealer. So the Face Tape foundation does work better for more combo oily skin types, but the Foundcealer, very dewy, but great for dry skin. It is a medium buildable coverage, looks beautiful, and I would totally recommend that. I wanted it to work for my skin so badly, but it just didn't. And the next two products are both from IT Cosmetics, and that would be the IT Cosmetics Original CC Cream and the Original Bye Bye Foundation. I've tried the originals and the matte versions of both of these products, and the originals just don't hold up on me. And the Bye Bye Foundation and the CC Cream are actually very similar. It's just that the Bye Bye Foundation maybe has a little bit less coverage, and it's a little bit more of like a liquidy consistency, where this CC Cream is like a little thicker. But they're very similar products, give great medium buildable coverage. They look very natural on the skin, very beautiful. So I really have like the same thoughts about all of them. I think that the Tarte Foundcealer, the IT CC Cream, and the IT Bye Bye Foundation give a medium buildable coverage. The Too Faced Born This Way gives a full coverage, and then the Maybelline Dream Cushion gives a light to medium. If you use like a Beauty Blender Real Technique sponge, I find you are able to build up the coverage. If you use the little spongy thing that comes with it, you're not gonna get the best coverage. At least that's what I experienced. But they really all wore the same on my skin. They just have different amounts of coverage. They all give a beautiful, healthy glow, which I think looks very nice. Like, to be able to wear more of a full coverage look, but it doesn't look heavy and cakey on the skin, I think is so fantastic. And that's the reason why I really wanted these to work for me, but they just didn't. But like I said, if you do have a dry or normal skin type, I would absolutely recommend all of those to you. Now moving on to powder. You guys know I'm a big powder person, mostly go for mattifying powders, but there are a few more glowy powders or powders that are meant for more dry skin that I've tried. And the first one would be the Too Faced Born This Way Ethereal Loose Setting Powder. I have the translucent light shade, and this is so nice because this does completely set your skin. It doesn't even give really a glow, but it doesn't make you too matte. It just looks very natural. And of course, I am gonna get a little bit oily throughout the day. I normally would, and I won't be as matte for as long as if I was to use a more mattifying powder, but I absolutely love this. It holds up well. It looks beautiful on the skin, makes my skin look more perfected. Overall, it does not make me look dry, cakey, or matte. This is such a good product, and I especially love wearing it in the winter time, but I could get away with this all year round. I just wouldn't be as matte for as long as if I was to use a mattifying powder. But I absolutely love this. I've repurchased it. I will continue to do so. It really is my go-to winter powder. And the one powder that I've tried that I think is terrible, I haven't really heard very many people rave about it in general, so let me know your thoughts if you've tried it. This is just a little sample size I put in a larger jar to be able to use it easier. This is a Laura Mercier Translucent Glow Powder, and the original is incredible. I find it to be pretty mattifying, but this glow version, first off, it does have a decent amount of pigment to it, and I'm not sure, it probably looks pretty on my hand, but it actually is very yellow, and I'm yellow, but it's very yellow, and it has so much glitter in it. And I apply it just with a brush, and I use a tiny amount of product, and I use it to highlight the center of my face and the top of my cheekbones, and then I'll go on top with more of an intense highlight. But I'm just trying to use it up, but I cannot imagine setting your face with that powder. Using a brush or a sponge, like, no matter what your skin type is, you're gonna look like a glitter bomb. I do not understand anybody being able to get away with using this as a setting powder. If you like it, please let me know how you apply it, how much you use, how you find it to work best for you. So then we have setting sprays, and there are two that I really like. The first is a finishing mist not a setting spray, and that would be MAC Fix Plus. Everybody loves this. I think this is so nice to take away a bit of a powdery look. It is not something that I would use for longevity to lock my makeup in, but it really does help to melt the powder into your skin and just make your makeup look better. So I think that product works well for everyone. But the specific dry skin setting spray that I've tried is the NYX Dewy Finish setting spray. This gives a beautiful glow to the skin, helps melt your makeup, makes your makeup look a little bit more natural. I really enjoyed this one. The matte spray I don't really think did much for me at all, but the Dewy Finish, I just loved the way that it made my skin look. And then I have the setting sprays that did not work for me. So the first two would be from Pixi. The Glow Mist is very greasy in my experience. I tried it as a primer spray and a setting spray. I used it up as a primer spray, but too greasy for my skin type. And then the Hydrating Milky Mist, I actually think would be very nice if you have really dry skin, because it is very hydrating, but it just made me too oily and my makeup didn't last for as long as I would like it to. But this is so nice. It'd be a good primer spray or setting spray for someone that has a dry skin type, just not great for me. And then the one that I would not recommend to anyone that I thought was absolutely terrible was the Bare Minerals Dew Mist. Now I did have a little mini, so maybe in a full-size bottle it's not as terrible. And this has a like pinky opalescent color. I would shake the crap out of this to make sure the pigment was mixing with the liquid, but my face would come out like a glowy glitter bomb. And yes, the mister on there wasn't that good, but I put it in another bottle thinking that would help. Didn't make a dang difference. My skin looked so shiny and greasy and glittery and terrible. Like it looked like it was a mistake, not like I did that on purpose. It was not a pretty look whatsoever. So really, I would not recommend that one to anybody. You'll look like a glittery mess. So guys, those were my thoughts on some dry skin favorites and how they worked on my oily skin. I hope you guys found this video entertaining, interesting, if nothing else. But I would love to know your thoughts on all these products in the comments down below, and let me know what your skin type is. Again, I know makeup is something that is so personal to everyone, especially base products, so I would love to know how these things worked for you. Again, let me know if you would like to see a mattifying version of this video. I will probably have even more products to talk about because I've tried so many things, wanting them to change the game for me as an oily person. Some have not. So if you guys would be interested in seeing that, I would be more than happy to do so. But I want to thank you all so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye guys.